Hey guys, this is Matoj from Avocode, and I'd like to welcome you to our first webinar. I really want to thank you for taking the time to take this lesson. Before we dive into the Avocode app, I just want to tell you a bit of a backstory of how Avocode started. So we started in 2015 as a design handoff tool for designers and developers, mainly for Sketch and Photoshop design files. Nowadays, it actually became one powerful cloud-based platform for all your design files, whatever their format. So you can use Avocode to handle files to various stakeholders, be it developers, clients, managers, etc. It really comes down to your role in the design pipeline. So as a designer, Avocode will help you to store and back up your files. You can also use our version history to go back in time and always be in sync with other designers. And also, it will help you dramatically in terms of design handoff to developers, so you don't have to prepare any assets or specs for them. As a developer, Avocode will help you streamline the process of coding websites and mobile apps by providing you all assets, specs, and code you might need. And if you're any other stakeholder in the process, like a manager, for example, and you're overseeing the whole pipeline, which is the process of the design being coded, basically you can use Avocode to give feedback, track design progress, or have this one organized solution for your entire team when anyone can access design files. If you have any questions during this webinar, please use the chat on your right, and also please tell us what other topic you would like us to cover in our upcoming webinars. Now that we can dive into the Avocode app, I just want to give you a quick summary of what I'm going to be talking about. So we'll go through design import and handoff to different stakeholders. We'll go through file management and inspecting, and then commenting. We'll also talk a bit about user management and the app preferences, and we'll wrap up with some useful links at the end. So for the purpose of this webinar, it's really great if you guys could follow along and use the Avocode desktop app. Avocode works also in the browser, so you don't actually have to download anything, but there are a few things that are helpful in the desktop app. So to download the app, just go to avocode.com/download, and depending on your platform, choose Mac OS, Windows, or Linux, and just hit download. By the way, you don't have to download any of our plugins. They will be automatically installed with the desktop app. So for example, if you have a Sketch installed on your machine already, and you download the Avocode desktop app, the plugin will be installed automatically. All right, so let's fire up the Avocode app. So now we are in this file system that we call the project manager. Basically, this is a list view of all your projects that you have currently in Avocode. Each project has this label. It's either web, iOS, or Android. So if you click on these three dots and open up the project settings, you can rename the project. You can set the path where all assets will be exported by default. And obviously you can switch between web, iOS, and Android, as I mentioned. You might notice that as you are switching, the dimensions and the color format are changing. So this will impact all your design files in the project. So for example, if you hit iOS, all dimensions will be measured in points and color format will be in UI color. But don't worry, you can always change it contextually for each design artboard. If you hit advanced, you can see that there's a list of 10 code languages that we generate from your design. So for example, if you're coding a website, and you can either go for CSS or any of the preprocessors like Sass, Stylus, and so on. So let's just hit save. And this is how you change project settings. If you want to create a new project, just go here and press new project, call it wonderful project, sorry about that, and hit create. All right, now you see that a new project has been created and there are no files inside. There are various ways how you can import files. Basically, you can just drag and drop them, like it says here. So Avocode currently supports Sketch, Photoshop, XD, Illustrator, PNG, and JPEG files. And you can also sync Figma files using the browser. I'll show you that just in a minute. So if you have the file on your computer, you can just take it and drag and drop it like this. Basically, take the file and drag and drop it in. Now that the design has been processed, you can open it. All right, now that the design handoff is complete, you can actually go in and open up these artboards. You can see that all of your layers from the design files have been rendered pixel perfectly. To go back to your projects, just hit the Avocode icon in the corner. Up next, I want to show you other ways of design import. So just hit Upload Files, and you can go through your documents to select them. You can also add files from Dropbox. So if you click that, Avocode will fire up the Dropbox integration. Then you just log in and select the files. Third of all, Avocode comes also with plugins that are installed with the desktop app, as I mentioned. So for example, if you go to the Photoshop app, like this, and want to fire up the Avocode plugin, you can simply go to View, Extensions, and hit Avocode. And then you can hit Sync. Avocode app will open up, and the respective project where you were. The same goes for Illustrator. So if you want to import Illustrator files to Avocode, just go to Window, Extensions, Avocode. This will fire up the Avocode extension. You can actually place it here if you want. And once you hit Sync, Avocode will again open up and ask you to sync it to any projects you want. So you can also switch through projects or create a new one whenever you're syncing a design file. Then, if you're using Sketch, you can simply select as many artboards as you want by holding the Shift key, open up Plugins, go to Avocode, and either hit Sync Selected or Sync All. Again, this will open up the Avocode app. The same goes for XD. So if you have this XD design file, you just go to File, Export, Avocode, and then Avocode will again open up and show you where you want to import this design file. Last but not least, if you are using Figma, let's open up Figma in your browser. Go to File, Export, and then in this corner, switch from Image to Avocode. This will show you the selected frames, and you can simply hit Export. This will open up the Avocode app in the next tab. And again, you can choose where you want to sync this file. So to summarize, there are three ways to import design files to Avocode. One is very simple. You can simply drag and drop the files just in your browser or in the desktop app. Second of all, you can use the Dropbox integration. And third of all, you can use any of our plugins. Alright, now that we know how to import design files, I just want to tell you a bit about how your files are structured in Avocode. So we've already went through projects and design files. Once you open up any project, you'll immediately see all the artboards that are inside the file. And if there are any symbols, Avocode will show you them in a separate tab, like this. Here you can see a list of all the symbols that are inside the file, and these are the master instances. If we go back to all designs and open up this artboard, for example, you can see that this button here is a symbol. You can recognize symbols based on these little arrows that are in the layer panel. If you open up the symbol like this, Avocode will actually render the master instance of the symbol. So whenever you want to inspect the override, you can do that within the context of the artboard. And if you want to inspect the master instance, you can go to the symbol and open it like this. Regardless of the way how you import your files, Avocode will always notify all other team members in your team whenever a new file arrives or a new comment is put to Avocode. Alright, whenever you sync a design file that is named the same way, or you sync it on top of the design file, like this, Avocode will add it as a new version, so you can describe what has actually changed in this version. Now you can see that the design file has been updated. So in this drop-down, you can see all the versions of the same file. So if we go to version 1, we can see that the design has been orange. And if we switch to the later version, you can see that the color has been edited. By the way, you can download any version down the road. Now let's talk a bit about inspecting design files. So the biggest benefit for developers is that with Avocode, they don't have to buy design tools. They can simply import or open design files just by using the browser or the Avocode desktop app. And it works on Linux, Windows, and Mac. Once you open up your design, you can see that Avocode renders all of its layers. So if you zoom in, you can actually see how crisp the design is. All vector shapes are rendered, as well as the fonts. As I mentioned previously, on your left you will see the list of all your layers. So whatever you select, either in the layer panel or on the design canvas, is contextually being shown in here, and you can see the selection also in the inspector. So for example, if you select this iPhone image asset, you can see it in the preview up here, and now you can export it. So you can change the format to JPEG, SVG, .p. This is a rasterized image, so a PNG or JPEG would make no sense. If this was a 2x design, you can switch to 2x and rename it. You can also add more variants if for some reason you want a different scale, and then you just hit export. You can see that it's being exported to my download folder. If you're inspecting text layers or any other vector shape layers, you can see that Avocode is again showing you the preview of the image asset and then giving you the code. You can switch between specs that are showing you basically the dimensions of the asset, the gradient, and so on, or the actual code. When you're copying code, you can either select a particular value, you can copy the whole line, or by dragging your mouse over a few numbers, you can actually copy multiple lines. If you want to change the code language, you can simply click this little cogwheel. Now it's set to CSS. And for example, if you prefer the SAS preprocessor, just switch to SAS and the code will be automatically changed. If you're looking to customize this code a little bit, you can now open up the code settings and go through all the settings that you can adjust here or in the advanced settings like quote type, box sizing, and so on. If you're using variables in your dev stack, you can either create new variables like this, or you can import them just by importing them and drag and dropping them to this window. If you want to pick colors, just switch to the color picker and click around to copy any color you want. You can see that all colors are being saved here in your color palette. If you want to work faster, you can simply double-click assets that are on the canvas, and Avocode export modal will fire up and you can simply export them. Same goes for text layers. If you double-click on a text layer, you can see that the text has been copied to your clipboard and you're ready to paste it wherever you want. The biggest benefit of Avocode rendering technology is that you can multi-select assets, and this is unheard of in other tools out there. Basically, you can multi-select layers like this one, so you can see it's a selection of 4 layers, and you can export them. But if you want to export just this little arrow, you can do that as well. If you want to select just 2 layers, you can hold the Shift key and click around. So for example, now I have selected this layer and this text. The multi-selecting is very powerful in terms of measuring layers. So you can see that you can either select this text and just measure towards this asset, or if you want, you can multi-select this entire group and then still measure the distances to the layers that surround it. Avocode rendering technology also allows you to hide layers. So for example, if you don't want some assets to be in your frame, just hide them like this and you can see what's below them. So now I can simply select this orange rectangle and see how big it is. Avocode is also rendering the whole asset, so you don't have to worry about it to be cut out by the artwork, but on the wider screen you can actually have the whole asset and position it just right. Okay, now that we know how to inspect your design, let's move to commenting. So Avocode comes up with a comment mode that allows you to instantly give feedback to your designs. You can comment directly on point. You can either click and start typing, or you can drag to select an area that you'd like to change. Change the copy to something more punchy here. So now I can either create the annotation or tag a team member in our team. So let's do that. Just use the add symbol and see the whole list of our team members. So I want to tell Max about this change. So I'll just create the annotation and it will be posted. If I want to prioritize this somehow, you can use colors to make annotations stand out on the canvas if you are using the comment mode more frequently. Once I commented on this file, Max will be automatically notified about the change. Once he syncs the new version to Avocode, I will be also notified. If I'm satisfied with the version change, I can simply solve the comment like this. If you want, you can also delete it like this, or you can actually reopen the conversation if you want. If you want to have a more general discussion about the design, you can use general comments here. So let's say, don't forget about coding the this campaign. Once you hit enter, it will be there, or all your team members that have access to this project will be notified. Once you import a design file to Avocode, all your team members will be notified via Slack, email, and also in the desktop app like this. You can see a list of all the changes in this bell icon. If you'd like to share a specific design file to someone, you can obviously do that. You just select an artboard and hit share. This will generate a share link that's either private or public. Once you copy it and share it, only people in your team will be able to access it. If the link is public, anyone outside your team will be able to view the design and request access to inspect it. Speaking of sharing, you can also invite new people to your team. So simply hit this button, click invite, or you can also click manage team. Now you can simply type in email addresses of your colleagues or invite them via Slack. It's up to you. So let's type in a few addresses. I can hit invite. And now you can see that I can invite Johnny either as a team member or guest. A team member will be able to add new design, inspect, and comment. A guest can only view and comment. So once I send a member invite, you can see that Johnny will be invited to all of these projects. If I want to edit his permissions, I can simply select projects that he can access and hit save. Now Johnny will be able to only access 3 projects. Last, let's talk about the app preferences. So if you hold Command, comma, the app preferences will show up. Or you can use this drop-down and simply click App Preferences. Here, you can edit multiple things. You can simply change the default export path of your assets. You can also change the theme to dark, like this. Here's the font size, and so on. Feel free to export this on your own. There's also code customizations and some useful shortcuts to help you work faster. If you have any questions during your usage of Avocode, simply talk to one of my colleagues on the intercom and type in a message and someone will quickly reply. You can also go to help.avocode.com and explore our help center, which is full of very helpful articles, either on getting started, file management, and so on. If you'd like to learn some more about Avocode, please let us know what topic we should cover in our upcoming webinar session. I hope you had a good time during this lesson and that you learned something, and let's see you next time.